Hello, hello, hello! A wonderful day to all of you, especially to you, Professor Nina Isabella Umbay. I am Ines A. Brigoli, one of the members of Group 1. Today, our group will tackle about ballet dance, folk dance, and modern dance. These are the assigned various dance forms to our group. So this will be discussed in separate videos that will be posted on YouTube due to its large file size. So, of course, for you to be able to deepen and widen your horizons about these dances, let's start discussing about this now.
So good morning everyone, especially to you ma'am. Good morning. So I am Barbie Atil and today I will discuss to you the topic about ballet. So when we say ballet, it is an art form created by the movement of the human body, and it is a theatrical performed on stage to an audience utilizing costumes, scenic designs, and lighting. So ballet, it can tell a story or express thoughts, concept, or emotion. Ballet dance can be a magical, exciting, provoking, or disturbing. So here are the example of ballet. So now let's proceed in a brief history of ballet. So ballet, it is originated in the 15th century in Italian Renaissance courts. So what ballet dance looked like in the 21st century? So look at the pictures. So the origin of ballet, it is originated in Italian Renaissance court in the 15th century. So noblemen and women who were treated to lavish events, so especially wedding, celebration, where dancing and music created an elaborate spectacle. So dancing masters thought that the steps of nobility and the court participated in the performances. In the 16th century, Catherine de' Medici, an Italian noblewoman, wife of King Henry II of France and a great patron of the arts, began to found ballet in the French court. So he elaborated festival encouraged that the growth of ballet decor, a program that include dance, decor, costume, song, music, dance, and poetry, and other things. So a century later, King Louis helped to popularize and standardize the art form. A passionate dancer, he performed many rules himself, including that the son of king in ballet de la Noce. His love of ballet fostered of elevation from a pastime of amateurs to an endeavor requiring professional training. So by 1661, a dance academy had opened in Paris, and in 1681, ballet moved from court to the stage. So French opera Le Triomphe d'Amour incorporated in belief of elements, creating a long-standing opera ballet tradition in France. By mid 70s, French ballet masters Georges Navarin rebelled against the artifice of opera ballet, and believing that ballet could stand on its own and as an art form. His notions that ballet should contain expressive, dramatic movement that should reveal the relations between characters, introduce the ballet actions of dramatic style of ballet that conveys narrative. So Navarin's work is considered as the precursors to the narrative ballet of the 19th century. So In the 19th century, in the 19th century, early classical ballets such as Giselle and La Saipide were created during the Romantic movement. So in the first half of the 19th century, so the movement influenced art, music, and ballet. It was concerned with supernatural world, and also spirit, magic, and others showed women as a passive and fragile. So these themes are reflected in ballet of the time that are called as romantic ballet. This is also a period of time where dancing on the steps or of the toes, known as the point work became the norm for the ballerina. So the romantic tutu, a calf-length of full skirt made from turtle, was introduced. So the popularity of ballet soared in Russia. So and during the later half of the 19th century, Russia geographers and composers took it a new heights. So Marlus, Petipas, and the Nutcracker, The Sleeping Beauty, and Swan Lake by Petipa and Lev Ivanov represent the classical ballet. So in this grandest form, so the main purpose was to display a classical technique. So the point work of high extensions is through the precision of movement, and turn out that the fullest, that the completed consequences that show of demanding steps, leaps, and turns were choreographed into the story. So the classical tutu much shorter and stiffer of the romantic tutu. So ballet today is multifaceted in classical forms, traditional stories, and innovations intertwined to produce the characters of a modern ballet. So this is the brief history of ballet. So I hope you understand, and that's all for ballet.
Since Miss Barb already tackled the definition and brief history of a ballet, now I'm going to tackle the different style of ballet. All ballet are not the same. Gertrude Stein said it in 1913 poem, "Rose is a rose is a rose." It is a well-known phrase that often interpreted mean that things are what they are. I thought that all ballet styles are all the same. As I first searched it in Google, I thought classical ballet and romantic ballet are the same. But as I searched it thoroughly, I've learned that it isn't. At first, as I watched videos on the YouTube, it is very confusing, the different styles of ballet. But as I watched it repeatedly and searched thoroughly on Google, I've learned that it has similarities and differences. So indeed, all ballet are not the same, and the styles of ballet aren't too. And also the method of teaching of ballet aren't the same too. There are many different kinds of styles in ballet, but as of now, I'm going to tackle the three main styles of ballet, which are the classical, neoclassical, and contemporary. At the end of this video, you'll learn the similarities and differences of these three styles of ballet. First, let's talk about classical ballet. Classical ballet is the oldest and most formal style of ballet. It follows traditional ballet, and technique used first began 100 years ago. The beauty of classical ballet is that while there is a set structure as how steps are to be performed and a specific language to it, interpretation and training may be approached in different ways. However, because its stylings are relatively rigid, classical ballet leaves little room for creative expression. The emphasis on technique is universal throughout classical ballet. So it created 5 principles to follow. The story of ballet is always supported by beautiful music, which goes with the story, expensive and extravagant costumes, and elaborate scenery. Since we already tackle about the classical ballet, now let's proceed to the neoclassical ballet. Neoclassical, introduced in the 20th century by choreographer George Balanchine, uses traditional ballet vocabulary, but it is far less rigid than classical ballet. Balanchine used flexed hand occasionally. Neoclassical form is torn in legs and non-classical costumes, such as leotards and tunics, instead of tutus, to distance himself from the classical and romantic ballet. What is left is the dance itself. It is sophisticated but sickly modern. So dancers often dance at faster and more difficult tempos and perform more technically feats. Neoclassical balance is characterized by ballet vocabulary, but it is far less rigid than classical ballet. Balanchine used flexed hand occasionally. Neoclassical form is torn in legs and non-classical costumes, such as leotards and tunics, instead of tutus, to distance himself from the classical and romantic ballet. What is left is the dance itself. It is sophisticated but sickly modern. So dancers often dance at faster and more difficult tempos and perform more technically feats. Neoclassical balance is characterized by increased speed, energy, and attack. The manipulation of classical form, asymmetry of a balanced feet, paved down aesthetics, simple sets, and costumes. So compared to classical, neoclassical ballet use a simple costume like leotards, while the classical is used a extravagant costumes. Classical ballet can often be compared to a formal night out at the opera, while neoclassical is presented best in a casual theater with minimal costume, lighting, and sets. Okay, now since we are done with classical and neoclassical style of ballet, let's proceed to the last one, which is the contemporary ballet of style. So, contemporary dance. So it is influenced by both classical and modern dance. It takes its techniques and use point work from classical, although it permits a greater range of movement and relaxed steps. George Balanchine is credited being the founder of contemporary ballet through the development of neoclassical ballet, and it is characterized by floor work, turn in of the legs, range of movements of body lines, and points shoes, but also bare feet. The more classical shows incredible technique and skill, while more contemporary and modern allows expression from the choreographer and dancers. To end with this, I will summarize the three main styles of ballet. So the classical ballet is a dance that's supported by a beautiful music, which goes emphasis on a story of ballet and narrative. It is expansive. It has extravagant costumes and elaborate scenery. Neoclassical is a style of dance that often described as sophisticated, sleek, modern, and clean. It is characterized as a increased speed, energy, attacked, non-narrative, and also it has a simple set of costumes. Contemporary dance. This dance it has a genre that incorporates classical and neoclassical that emphasis on movements rather than narrative.